Good evening. My name is Felicia Swoop, and I am the Executive Director of Newark Arts, where we power the arts to transform lives. We are so happy to welcome you here, artists and arts organizations. Tonight, we'd like to say thank you to both Lynn Toy of the New Jersey Arts and Cultural Renewal Fund and to Fayemi Shakur, Arts and Cultural Affairs Director for the City of Newark, for championing these two wonderful grant opportunities designed specifically for you. Tonight, the session will be recorded. You'll be able to find it on our website, newarkarts.org, on the Creative Catalyst Fund page. Also, during the session, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we will hold a Q&A at the end of the session. Now, I'd like to turn the meeting over to my colleague, Heather Ayers, who will talk to you just a bit about the Renewal Fund. Heather.
So I'm Heather Ayers. I'm the Director of Grants Administration here with Newark Arts, and I'm just going to give a brief overview of the Renewal Grant. The applications can be accessed through our website at newarkarts.org. And the applications are currently being accepted, and they've been open for 10 days now. And the portal will remain open until tomorrow evening, Thursday, November 17th at 11:59 p.m. It's a simple application, so if you haven't started it or even looked at it yet, that's okay. You still have time to go in there and complete it. And just keep in mind that the portal will close at 11:59 p.m. and no late applications will be accepted. The renewal grant is a $1,500 needs-based grant for Newark artists who live in and work in Newark and whose livelihood is still being impacted due to the pandemic. The application, as I said, has been open for 10 days. It will be closing tomorrow, and people should be notified around the middle of December about whether they're receiving the grant or not. And we anticipate that the funds will be distributed before the end of the year. And this grant was made possible through the generosity of the New Jersey Arts and Cultural Renewal Fund. So again, like Felicia said, if you have any questions, please hold them till the end, or you can post them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll address them at the end of the session. And at this time, I'll introduce Fayemi Shakur, and she will discuss the Creative Catalyst Fund. Hey, Fayemi.
Hi, Heather. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you to Newark Arts, who has been such a valuable partner for myself personally and for the city in amplifying and advocating for funding for our arts and cultural groups and individual artists. I really implore you all to take advantage of that renewal grant and get your applications in, and encourage you to also apply for the Creative Catalyst Fund. I'm just going to walk through a little bit of it for you, and when we're finished or as we're speaking, please post your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we'll make sure we respond when we're done. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so this is the Newark Arts website, one of the sites where you can access the application. As you can see, since 2020, we've awarded $1.6 million and about 252 grants to individual artists, collectives, and arts organizations. And that's really thanks to our mayor, who is an artist himself, who really understands without us having to explain why we need to support artists and arts organizations in our community. So thank you, Mayor Baraka, for your continued support. The grant did take a little bit longer. Some of you may be wondering why it took a while for this year's grant to be made available. And we have to sometimes find new funding sources for this initiative. And thankfully this year, through funds from the American Recovery Plan, federal dollars that were allocated to cities and states through the administration, we were able to, again, provide the Creative Catalyst Fund for this year. So $750,000 for this initiative was allocated through ARP funds. And hopefully, just FYI, there are 2 bills currently being considered or will be considered that we're hoping that our elected officials will support to continue to provide ARP dollars to the cultural sector for our arts sector. Very, very important, not just for our quality of life and neighborhood revitalization, and for workers, which artists are great contributors to the economy. And we want to make sure we continue to support and thank you for your efforts. Okay, so let's get into the actual application. It's pretty much the same if you've applied previously. You'll enter the page submittable. If you've never applied before, you'll have to register for a submittable account, which is at submittable.com. Follow the link, you'll get instructions on how to register. And you'll notice there are 2 funding streams. You can only select one for general operating support or artist fellowships. General operating support is for Newark-based nonprofit arts and cultural organizations, and also, it doesn't say here, artist collectives. So if you're an LLC and you want to apply for general operating support, you can use this funding stream. Grants to support general operating costs are for small to mid-sized nonprofits with an operating budget up to $2 million. And that's really to make sure that our smaller organizations are receiving support. You know, we do have a limited amount of funding statewide for arts and cultural organizations. And so through these efforts, we're really hoping to provide more support. So what can you use your funds for as for general operating support? Any operating costs, including but not limited to staff salaries and benefits, rent, program-specific expenses, or costs incurred as a result of COVID. We are coming out of the pandemic, but there still are, you know, certain coverage organization needs to really get through this economic crisis that we're all impacted by. So grants over $5,000 must be matched by funds raised from other sources. So as you apply for general operating support, you'll notice there is a budget template provided, and also questions about where you may have received additional funding from. If you have never received any funding from anyone, maybe you're a new organization, maybe you're a new artist collective, you can request up to $5,000 without having the need for matching funds. Again, any questions, please post them in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll cover them later. Artist fellowships are for Newark-based individual artists, also artist collectives working in any artistic discipline. So when we say Newark-based, yes, we are talking about Newark residents. You do have to provide proof of residence or proof that you have an office, studio, or workspace in Newark. There's no matching requirement, and the funds can be used to cover any expenses related to your art practice, including but not limited to workspace rent, supplies, and equipment. I want to go to cover a little bit more about the eligibility requirements and some of the documentation that's needed. If anybody wants or needs a copy of this, I'd be happy to provide it. Please let me know in the chat or send me an email, and I can provide a little bit more here. So some people want to know how the applications are scored. What's our review process? And for general operating funds for organizations and collectives, we're really looking at 4 things: impact, capacity, quality, and equity. So impact: does your organization have a valuable impact, whether broad or deep, on its program participants, the surrounding community, or the city at large? Capacity: does the organization maintain a high level of responsibility, accountability, professionalism, and fiscal stability? Quality: do the organization's programs provide unique and high quality artistic and cultural experiences for their target audience? And does the organization and its programming demonstrate a commitment to equity and inclusion, both as it relates to its leadership and its audience? Those are the questions that our selection committee judges the applications based on. And for artist fellowships, I just want to cover some of the background material that individual artists should submit to try and help strengthen your application. Here you'll see a list of background material. As part of your application, you should provide photos of programming that you've done in the past year, links to audio or video clips of your events that you've done, sample program materials such as flyers, curriculum materials, classes, press clippings, a link to press articles about the work you've done, letters of support from any program partners that you've worked with, or participants, venues, or school administrators, and also a bio or a resume of not just, if you're an artist collective, you should have a bio for everyone that you're working with who's part of your team. I'd also want to point out, to strengthen your applications, we really are looking this year, again, at impact. And so say, for instance, you want to use funds to purchase equipment or painting supplies or something like that. In addition, as part of your proposal or application, you should tell us how you're going to exhibit or share that work with the public. What is the public benefit of the work that you're doing? So, for example, are you proposing that you'll do be a part of an exhibition? Are you going to do a performance? Are you going to do a workshop? Are you going to do some type of public program or event? And not everyone can get into exhibitions, I know. So if you have a studio, maybe, for instance, you'll do open studio day, open to the public, where you'll showcase your work, or collaborate with other artists to have kind of like an open studio experience. Those are just some suggestions on responding to the question about what is the community impact or public benefit of your work. I don't see okay, there's questions in the chat. We're going to get to those, so keep those coming. So again, here are the 3 review questions that our committee considers when they're evaluating the applications. Does the applicant demonstrate a commitment to social impact through their work? Does the applicant demonstrate exceptional creative ability and artistic merit? I'm going to get to that in a second. Does the applicant demonstrate a continuing dedication to their artistic disciplines and their community and ties to the city of Newark? So as far as quality and continuity, and we say exceptional creative ability, that's really about, are you a professional artist? Not art as a hobby, but is this part of your career path or work path? Occasionally we get submissions from people who, are artistic in nature, and they have an idea for something they want to do, but art as an cultural worker or artist isn't necessarily something they're pursuing as a professional career. So I hope that that kind of helps candidates to understand what type of applications we're looking to award. We want to help, really cultivate and nurture the career paths of our artists and encourage the work that you're doing, and really ask you to get engaged in sharing your work with the community. Some of you all may know that the mayor recently announced the creation of an arts and education district, which encompasses much of downtown Newark. But within that, we're really also encouraging collaboration. And so we encourage you all to work with each other. We encourage organizations to bring artists on as teaching artists and provide opportunities for one another, supporting partnerships. Okay, I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. I don't think I need to go into the individual artist applications too much, but maybe, let me see if this will open up if I push it. No, I have to sign in. I'm not gonna do that right now. But again, if you have any questions as you're applying and submitting your information to the application, you can always reach out to me. So here are the questions. Hi, Paula. Paula is an amazing poet and professor. She says, I don't live in Newark, but I teach in Newark. Is my faculty ID or a contract sufficient proof to demonstrate my practice in Newark? I am going to encourage you to apply, and I have to leave that eligibility up to the committee to review. And again, we really just want to see how your work is going to be showcased in the city. So please include that as you're submitting.
So this answers another question then, Fayemi. From Mighty Warriors in the question and answers, the question is, hi, Mighty Writers is a regional nonprofit. We have a center in Newark, but are headquartered in Philadelphia. Our Newark Writing Center in Newark primarily serves Newark students, youth, and artists. Since we're headquartered in Philly, but have a presence and an impact in Newark, can we apply?
The question is, do they have an office space in Newark? I don't know if they can answer that right now, but that's all they really have to demonstrate, that they have an office in Newark. I understand that they're headquartered in Philadelphia, but do they also have an office in Newark?
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, hopefully they can discern then.
Okay, yep, I see her response. She says, yes, we have an office space in Newark. I'm familiar with your work too. I saw a couple of things that you were doing online, and I think it's great, and you'd be a new applicant. So I encourage you to apply.
Wonderful. Okay, another question from the Q&A is from an anonymous attendee. Can we use funds to supplement other grants funded initiatives? Should I read that again? Can we use funds to supplement other grant funded initiatives?
I'm not sure what that means. Can you elaborate on that?
So if whoever asked that wants to write something else into that chat, and I'll move on to the next question. This is from Jamara Michelle Wakefield. Can you talk about letters of support? Who should they come from? What should the content of the letter be about? Do they have to come from organizations for support in New Jersey? Are there people we should not consider asking for our letters of support?
Good question. Letters of support should be from Newark-based organizations that you have worked with in an artistic or cultural capacity, whether you provided a teaching, some sort of arts education or teaching artist workshop. That will, thank you. Yes, please repost your question, Amanda. That will be suffice for letters of support. Also, if, for instance, you do any work with school children or children, whatever venue or administrator you work with, you can request a letter of support from them to provide.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question. If not, elaborate in the chat.
Okay. Celeste Bateman says, if you're an LLC, can you apply for GOS for your own projects, or do you have to represent a collective?
You can apply for general operating support as an LLC. Again, there is a matching requirement. So if you have not received other funding support from other sources, I would encourage LLCs and artist collectives to apply to the individual artist fellowship stream.
Okay. We have another, let's see, I have a nonprofit org with a 501c. I'm not sure what the question is. I guess, can they apply? I guess must be the question.
Can you repeat that?
Somebody wrote, I have a nonprofit organization with a 501c3. That's all they wrote. So
I do understand this question, and I do get it
Okay.
pretty often. I think what they're saying is they're not necessarily an arts or cultural group, that they're a nonprofit that may want to do some type of artistic programming. And, at this time, due to, limited funding, we can't support all nonprofits. We are specifically focused on small to mid-size arts and cultural groups where the arts is your primary mission.
Thank you. All right. Okay, I think this is the question that's reposted. So the first question read, can we use funds to supplement other grant-funded initiatives? And then they posted, if the initiative has partial funding from another support, can this grant be used to support the same initiative?
Absolutely.
Okay. That was easy. All right. Amanda Thackeray has a question. Oh, thank you so much for this webinar. I'm curious how you weigh applications that are still being impacted by COVID versus applications that may be more project focused without a strong COVID impact.
Both are evaluated equally. As I said, we're kind of coming out of the pandemic now, so we're not virtual anymore. We can do more in-person events, but arts and cultural groups are still impacted by the pandemic. Not everyone is, comfortable coming to in-person events. Some folks are slow to returning to in-person events. You can contextualize your applications in whatever way suits best, but we would like to know if you are still being impacted by the pandemic and how so. So if you have noticed, your audience numbers or attendance numbers are less than they were in previous years, please do share that.
Okay. All right, Tamara Michelle Wakefield, thank you so much for taking my question about letters of support. I appreciate you all for putting this together. As a follow-up question, can the letters of support include future community-based work that we will be doing in 2023? I ask this because many of us have been working independently at home because of the pandemic, and we're just coming back out and haven't had opportunities to do community programming that we plan to.
I'd say yes. If you have a commitment letter from an organization that you intend to partner with for 2023, yes, by all means, you can share those letters of support and commitment letters with us.
Thank you. And then just one more, Rafael Chavez, New Labor. What are Esperanza Azteca, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing things. We don't have a big funding, but we have a 501c3. What grant do you recommend us to apply for, as we're a cultural organization?
It's up to you, really. If you have other funding sources, again, the general operating stream is really for nonprofits and LLCs. If you don't have matching funds to demonstrate, you cannot receive more than $5,000. So that that funding support can come from any source. It can also come from revenue. If you want to show, in your budget template, revenue that you receive from your organization or your LLC, and use that as a source of matching funds, we do consider that as well. But if you don't have any matching funds to demonstrate, you're not eligible for more than $5,000.
Thank you. Okay, we have another one just popped in. Can the grant be used towards creative works to promote Newark to other communities out of the city?
I'm going to say no. Just because the purpose of this is for our city and our residents and our artists. And we want to provide, more opportunities for our residents to get to know the organizations in our city. There is a lot of focus on activities happening downtown. And some of the things we've heard from, residents is that they don't always know like what's happening, what events are happening, or we want to get them more engaged in being a part of our artist community and experiencing all that we have to offer. So the purpose of our programs really should be focused on Newark residents and the Newark community.
Okay, thank you for that. By Newark, for Newark, got it. And in the chat we had from Celeste, say your nonprofit is awarded $10,000, but you were only able to match $5,000 of it. Can you just return it or turn down the portion that you couldn't match?
Can you repeat that question?
She says, okay, say your nonprofit is awarded $10,000, but you were only able to match $5,000. Do you return the additional $5,000 or for the portion that you couldn't match?
Oh, the match has to be demonstrated up front. So in your application, you have to provide proof of any awards that you've received, some type of award letter.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. Does anybody have any other questions that you'd like to?
Well, before we go, I just want to share. What's that question? Somebody can help us to apply for it.
Oh, yeah, they want someone. Can someone help them apply? Unfortunately, I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna. I think that in some cases the application is in English, and so if you do need assistance applying, or if you're Spanish speaking or you speak another language and need assistance with the application, please do reach out to me, and I will make sure we provide someone who can assist you with your application. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Any other questions, Heather?
So let's see, do I have to be a nonprofit as an artist? I've been an artist all my life and am just learning about this.
One question. Do I have to be a nonprofit as an artist? No, you do not. This grant is also for individual artists, but you do have to demonstrate your impact on the community and previous work that maybe you've done and shared with the community, or how your work will be shared with the community in the future with this grant.
Right.
I put
But
my
as an-
email address. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
put
okay.
my
I was going to
email
say as an
address.
Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
I put my email address in the chat, so please email me if you have any questions. Oh, somebody says you're an amazing artist, Alina.
There you go.
Okay, and Alina, you can include like your CV, your bio, images of your work, your website, your social media. All of that is great supporting information for the committee to get familiar with your work. I hope that answers your question.
And then as an individual, you can also apply for the renewal fund.
Yes, everybody should be applying. If you're an individual artist, everybody should be applying for, sorry, for the renewal. I know you're going to be bombarded, but it's such a wonderful opportunity and it's flexible. So, you know, in this economy, if you're, struggling with rent or food or anything, there's no limits on what you can use that funding for. So you don't see my email, Paula? It's in the chat. It's Shakur F, spelled SHAKUR, F as in flower, at ci.newark.nj.us. And then really briefly, Heather, I just want to show that this PowerPoint about last year's Creative Catalyst Fund and how some of the funds supported other projects. So last year we had $750,000 from the city of Newark, $50,000 from the Dodge Foundation that went to 134 artists, arts collectives, and cultural organizations. The average award for organizations was almost $11,000 and, $3,800 for artists. And we really do appreciate your testimonials and final reports because we put that into an annual report. And here's one from the amazing artist Boomy. She says, the funds from this grant have supported my ability to get into the biggest show of my career thus far. Some of you may know Boomy's work. I was recently featured at the Met and we're so proud of her. So thank you, Boomy, for that testimonial that you shared with us. We're also taking a look at the project locations where you're funded. So you'll see a question on the application about where your programs are happening. So, you know, a lot is concentrated downtown, but we do want to make sure that we have cultural groups in the East Ward, in the West Ward, in the South Ward, in the North Ward, and that we're spreading out our activities and programs in our neighborhoods. Let's see how the funds were used. So this is last year. And we asked these questions because this helps give us metrics to evaluate, you know, the success of the program so that we can continue to ask for this program to be supported. So please make sure you answer these questions thoughtfully because they help us so that we can continue the work. So based on last year, 94% of the grantees for general operating support used it for program expenses. 68% used the funds for artist or contractor payments. 65% used it for staff salaries and benefits. And you'll see here some of the other applications that were used. I also really like 26% used it to as a subsidy for space rental programs, which is great. Using these funds to provide free or reduced cost artist studio space or rehearsal space is really a great way to collaborate and give back and support the community. Artist fellowship grantees, most used it for project expenses, but 73% were able to use it for rent for their creative workspaces, 73% for supplies and equipment, 45% for COVID-related expenses, 16% other. Another question I get sometimes is what happens if you decide you apply for one type of programming or event or use of funds and you change, your mind. That happens. Sometimes things get canceled or we have to pivot and use funds in a different way. You can include that in your final report. Just tell us how you did end up spending the funds. And please make sure you provide photos of what you did, video, press articles, any coverage you can to demonstrate how you use the funds.
Amy, in the chat, in the question and answers, there's a question from Michelle Black. Hello, I still have my studio, but my rental agreement is out of date. Do I need to update my rental agreement to apply?
Yes, please do update your rental agreement. And hi, Michelle. Yes, please do.
All right. And then
Any other questions?
we do have a couple. Let's see, where can we find information? If you go to newarkarts.org, you can get information from the website. And this video is being recorded and will be reposted. I guess on the website, right? When you get on there, you'll be able to find the link to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as an individual, can you apply if you just have a studio in Newark? Sorry, I joined late, this person says.
Absolutely. If you're not a Newark resident, but you have a studio in Newark, yes, please apply. We want to encourage all of our artists that are a part of our community to be here. You can use those funds if you have a studio in Newark in any of the capacities that are demonstrated in the guidelines.
All right. And again, in the chat, Cindy posted links to get information and yeah, I think, let's see if that's it.
Okay.
Let's get compliments now.
I will also, if you registered via Eventbrite, once the YouTube link is up and running, we will send that link to you all as well so that you can refer back. And again, if you have any questions as you're working on your applications, please don't hesitate to email me.
All right, and somebody wants to know, can you share that deck? Okay, the Creative Commons fund that you shared.
Okay, who asked that?
That's Carmen Santos Robson.
Yes, Carmen, I'll email that to you directly.
Okay, I think that's all I see.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Good luck and keep doing all the wonderful work that you all are doing. You're really appreciated. Your work is appreciated. And I hope, this funding, it's not much, but it is the city's way of just thanking you for what you do.